So I've been thinking quite a bit over what's the best method to help you answer these behavioral questions during the Amazon interview, because frankly speaking, this is the number one question that people ask me these days. And one of the most common reactions after some of you read these questions to, wait a second, but my work experience is so limited, how could I possibly talk about a time when a team member underperformed, or how could I possibly talk about customer obsession when I had no customers yet? And probably the most useful piece of advice that I can give you is that, you see, many younger people, and especially recent graduates, tend to believe that they can only talk about a project if it's the main highlight of their careers, which, by the way, they don't even have yet. You see, a project, as the question implies, tell me about a time when, it's just a project. So the interviewer is a lot more interested about how you handle the situation and about your storytelling skills here than if the story was a life and death event. And the same applies to questions such as tell me about a time when you showed customer obsession. You see, the customer could be anyone, could be your parents, could be a friend, could be another student. Now, this being said, your story must be relevant, factual, and concise, and some of this can very well be tuned through storytelling. And furthermore, maybe remember about a time when you had to apply certain technical skills, such as Excel or Photoshop or pretty much any other scientific instrument, because that story could very well relate to the question that you're looking to answer. Also, brainstorm a bit about the time when you're part of a team, either as a team leader or simply team member. How did you perform under pressure? Maybe you had a tough deadline, or maybe you had multiple projects, or maybe your project specifications weren't clear. It's impossible to have never ever experienced any such event in your life, and if you haven't, I believe the chances are quite slim that you'll enjoy Amazon's culture in the first place. Let me tell you about an experience that I had on YouTube when I published my first video series. Despite investing up to 200 hours for one video and maintaining a regular upload schedule, they would only receive between 50 and 100 views. And this happened for a period of around 3 months of trial and error where no one would watch my content or subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I had to cancel the series. However, this helped me a lot to understand the value of storytelling and of creating useful content. And despite the fact that I was doing these videos all by myself, I continuously went above and beyond to help my viewers to reach their own goals. And eventually, with time, things started improving and thousands of people started watching my videos every day, with hundreds subscribing each month. Furthermore, people started providing me with useful feedback that made the production process a lot more enjoyable and helped me to improve with each upload. Now, let me just quickly highlight a few elements of this story. And the first thing is how I chose my project. I only chose a small part of my YouTube channel. I didn't go for the whole thing, simply because I knew that this is the most relevant answer to my question. And this is very important because it will make your life a lot easier when choosing a specific story to relate to a given behavioral question. And second here, how I structure my story. Each story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And so long as you have these, no one will ever care about the STAR method. However, if you believe that you'll get anxious during the interview, it's good to remember the STAR method, just in order not to forget some parts of your story. Now, going back to my failure story, notice how I chose to employ my time in answering it, because the beginning was quite brief, talking about the situation, the task, and the action that I took, and instead I focused a lot more on the results part and on my learnings from the story, because as the story being in a failure context, I tried to maximize the benefit that I got from it. And also notice that I didn't go over 2 minutes with this story, and in fact it should be within 1 or 2 minutes long. Why is that? Well, simply because you must invite for follow-up question and to basically start a conversation from this. And furthermore, also notice that I didn't focus on the irrelevant details. I didn't talk about my first videos being poorly filmed or they solved no actual problem. Instead, again, I focused on the bread and butter of the discussion on the results and learnings that would put me in a much better light. Furthermore, notice how I stayed concise and used plenty of metrics, and this is because despite Jeff Bezos talking about using gut feeling over data for big decisions, rest assured that Amazon is a metrics-rich business. And also here, notice how I use a language that rhymes quite well with Amazon's 14 leadership principles. However, just make sure you don't exaggerate with these things. And one good strategy here is to take a look at the job description that you have and extract its core competencies, and then link those competencies with the 14 leadership principles, and only then link them with your specific story. Notice also when I use the customer obsession term, I also reference the flywheel, which is basically a concept that Amazon defined many years ago and talks about their strategy over long-term growth, and with the most important element being treating its customers well. But the idea here is that you could use many other elements of this flywheel with your own story to make it connect better with the Amazon's overall strategy. So I could easily go for another hour talking about these things, but I know that the most important element of preparing for the behavioral interview is to actually practice it. So thank you very much for watching.